This is Daniel from Divine Orbit, and you're watching a video about Mars in Aries on December 31st, 2018. Our good friend Mars. Mars is a planet that the ancients said was a malefic planet, meaning that it corresponded with cycles that were not very positive. And what I would like to do for you today in today's video is help you understand how we can use the astrological wisdom of the ancients to think about Mars in a different way, to think about how we can take advantage of this cycle and figure out a path forward. For the ancients, Mars had a separating quality and was said to rule the signs of Aries, which is a very fiery, bravado kind of sign, and Scorpio, which was more about deep intentional reflection and emotional capability. When something is said to be martial, martial arts, martial law, it's literally going back to the Mars root word there, and so that's kind of how this cycle has been viewed. Mars completes a cycle around the zodiac every 2 years, which means every year we see about half of the signs. So let's talk about the sign of Aries. The ancients divided Aries into 3 different segments, which corresponded with 3 different expressions of the sign. So the first one is using your personal power to create, and this is where that separating action really starts to begin. So a spark really causes you to understand what's on fire and what's not on fire. So you're separating things. When you proclaim your independence, you are talking about what is you, what is uniquely you, and what is not you. And this can apply to groups of people as well. Really segregating out would be a very martial Aries thing to do. The second part of Aries is engaging the separation that you've created to create further things for yourself, so to generate things. This is where you're directing the fire that you've created, or directing the things that you've separated to really say, here is what is within my power, and here is what is within your power. This is also an area where leadership plays a role. Becoming a leader really means assuming the power of a collective whole and taking responsibility for that. And so this is very much associated with that leadership element as well. And finally, the last part of Aries is really about expressing that personality and that personal part of yourself. This could be through art, this could be through a proclamation. These are all things that make a statement and really say this, versus like, well, it could be one or the other, but it's really about saying no. This. Aries is also said to be a cardinal sign, which means it's about starting things. A fire sign, which means it's about passion or things that are spiritual in nature, willpower, and it's ruled by Mars. And so when Mars is in the sign of Aries, this is a really great combination, and the ancients thought that there was a lot more power behind this combination than Mars being in any other sign. So if we look back in different cycles throughout history, where we see Mars and Aries corresponding to includes themes of sparking, inciting, dividing, being inspirational or being inspired to do something. Inspirational leaders also. So in doing the research for this video, I found Mars in Aries corresponded with a lot of interesting things. There have been a couple times over recent years where military aggression has increased, especially in North Korea and the Middle East. But also, if you're in the United States here at home, with some political aggression, we see the refugee ban was signed a couple of years ago, and that was really tense internally. It was back and forth between different branches of the U.S. government, and we also see a struggle for that around President Obama's negotiations with Iran and being conflicted with the U.S. Congress at the time. There is also some correlation with explosions or bombings, which is a really unfortunate part of Mars and Aries. Again, Aries being that fire sign, the ancients thought that there would be more of a proclivity for fiery things to happen. But my favorite instance of this that's kind of interesting, in 2011, Barack Obama decided to end all of the speculation and back and forth about his birthright to become president of the United States by just saying, here's the receipts, here's my birth certificate in long form, this proves I was born in the United States. And that's very much that Aries drawing the line, saying, no, I have leadership authority here, this is my power, relax, like chill, it does not matter, I have this rightful claim. It's just very true to how the ancients interpreted Mars and Aries action. On a personal level, Mars in Aries signifies a transition from one house to another in your birth chart. So you can see on the chart where Mars was in Pisces, what significations you might have seen there, and then what Mars in Aries might bring for you. And again, none of this means that these things will happen for you in your life. One of the things that you can use to make sense of the events unfolding in your life is to apply these patterns and cycles, and to say, all right, what might be happening astrologically that helps me make sense? Is this part of a larger cycle? You're the one who knows your life. You get to see those cycles in action. Astrology helps give you a framework for how you might see those in a different way. It helps you ask different questions. So the area of your chart that you see affected by Mars in Aries, I would ask yourself over the next 6 weeks, because that's how long Mars will be in Aries, how do you see those things playing out? How do you feel about those things? What do these things help you in terms of personal or community healing? How do they help you move forward and not be stuck in the past? So if we look at the 6 weeks that Mars is in Aries and divide it up into those 3 different parts, we see that in early January, it's really about using that power to really separate, create that divide. And we see a challenge from Mercury. So this cycle would be related to challenging information or challenging perspectives that we feel like we need to move and pick a side on. The end of January then would focus on the power to create things out of that division or separation. And we see several supportive cycles happening, intersecting with the Mars cycle as well, from 2 of the planets that the ancients said were very good, Venus and Jupiter. So those things are really helping push things forward. The energy and momentum that we think of when we think of Aries really applies here to propel you forward in your personal endeavors in this area. There's a challenge from Saturn, so that cycle intersection would mean, slow down a little bit, but there's a lot of good positive momentum here as well. Saturn's just a really cranky planet in January. The first part of February then, wrapping things up with Mars and Aries, we look at your personal perspective and how you express that. And here we see support from Mercury, so maybe now you're integrating information that was challenging before, but now it makes sense and fits in, especially with Mars aligning with Uranus during that time. We get that sense of, oh, I was looking at it the wrong way. Okay, this makes sense. Great, here's how I feel. And then on February 14th, Valentine's Day, Mars will go into Taurus. I'll make a video about that when it's time, but Taurus is a Venus-ruled sign, so it's kind of an interesting symbological cycle there with Mars, this planet of aggression, moving into fair Venus's sign of Taurus on a very Venusian holiday, at least in the United States. The reflection question I'll leave you with to really harness the astrological thinking from this video is, what power do you recognize within? Mars in Aries is all about power and how you use that to create, separate, or to express yourself. And if you're not sure what your power is and you're not aware of that, you might be doing these things without realizing it, and then it's not intentional, and that has the power to harm. So when you really recognize the power that you have and act on that and become aware of that in different situations, that's where you're harnessing it for the power to heal on an individual and a community level. Thank you so much for watching this video on Mars and Aries. If you want to know more about how this could affect you in your birth chart, let's do a consultation. There's more information about how to reach me on divine-orbit.com. Also, I do daily horoscopes on Facebook, Instagram, and now on Twitter. And you can sign up for a mailing list in which I will help you with astrological thinking tips every single week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next cycle.